In society, there are two types of threats. You have the obvious open threats, which are written down in codified letters. We call them laws. Laws are codified letters in which a policy is written down in black ink, and these policies, and by the way, a policy is the enforcement of a rule, the enforcement of an expectation. So there is an expectation by some authority figure that the community agrees with, because a policy can only become a reality when people agree with it. If a policymaker comes up with some policy that goes against everything as people in a community wants, nobody would get along with it. For example, if someone came up with a policy that you're not allowed to wear blue jeans anymore, everyone would think, why is that politician interested in what I wear? You would get an instant revolt against it, so it wouldn't work. So you have codified agreements written in black ink that are published. Those are laws. For example, you're not allowed to drive faster than 200 kilometers on the highway. That's an example. If you do, you get a fine. Or you're not allowed to take someone's life. You may go to jail, serving a life sentence. Or you're not allowed to defraud someone in sales. Those are common threats. Those threats are threats that policymakers as well as society can justify. I don't justify violence at all, because violence cannot be justified. But because the rule serves a common good purpose for the community, people get along with it. Whether people agree with how it's enforced or not doesn't matter. People in general agree that you need to consider one another when you're on the road, and you need to be real with people you do business with. So we have the open threads of society that everyone can read and everyone can look up, and those threads are there to secure a common good interest of the community, whether it's public health or public safety. So people understand those threats, and in general, nobody wants to violate those policies, because everyone wants safety, everyone wants to be healthy. But then you also have threats from society that cannot be accounted for and cannot be justified. First thing first, threats in themselves are not good. Threats should only be used in extreme circumstances, when someone intends to do harm and they have no intention of stopping. To just threaten everyone to get along with something, that's just bad, that's just wrong. That happens in society, and people tolerate it because they think it works. And it does work with many side effects. But people don't talk about the side effects. But with open threats, you can see what's going on. With hidden threats, you have expectations that people of the community, so this has nothing to do with the government itself, it has to do with the people from the community. People in the community hold on to certain restrictions, and they expect you to get along with their restrictions. Those restrictions are toxic because they can't be accounted for. There is no science to defend those expectations, but the people don't care. If you challenge any of the hidden threats of society, people will turn on you, and in some cases you will even lose your life, because commoners can't handle it when you challenge them. The government, in many cases, gets along with the toxic restrictions that commoners hold on to. Why? Because the government knows when people are challenged long enough, they'll lose it. So the government doesn't want people to lose it, so the government often will get along with the unwritten rules of society. It may appear as if it's the government that dictates those unwritten rules, but that's not the case. It's commoners holding on to patterns and cycles, and the government, to maintain a grip on population, validates the patterns and cycles of the population. So that is why, for example, in banks, And in political organizations, they wear a suit and a tie. Where did this come from? It didn't fall from the sky. People didn't come out of the womb thinking if you wear a suit and a tie, you're important. No, it's a convention from the criminal world that commoners got used to. And because commoners got used to this idea, the government gets along with it and corporations get along with it also. And it works. The people feel validated, and because they feel validated, they get along with society. Now, apart from wearing a suit and a tie, there are other unwritten rules that contain hidden threats. Every unwritten rule contains a hidden threat, because what is a rule? A rule is a demand from someone on someone else. That's what a rule is. Every rule is a demand on someone else. And the only way a rule can become reality is if you threaten people to get along with the rule, or else it's not a rule. A rule that is flexible is not a rule. So there's inflexibility over here, and this leads to idolatry. Rules lead to idolatry, because people will be so clinging onto the rules that they don't look at the bigger picture. If people want to preserve life in traffic, then they come with conventions that they expect people to follow. For example, in some countries, you drive on the left side of the road. For example, that's in Britain the case. And in other countries, you drive at the right side. You make conventions and expect people to get along with it. That's good. But those conventions should only last as long as they're practical and useful. You do not hold on to a convention no matter what. Listen, if you're driving on the road and suddenly there's a car in front of you stops, what do? Are you staying on the right side and you crash into the car in front of you and you might even lose your life? No, you go to the left to prevent yourself from crashing the car in front of you. But someone that's obsessed with rules, they may see that, okay, you can go to the left and avoid the crash, but they will stay on the right side because they're so attached to rules. People that are attached to rules, they fall into idolatry, and they end up becoming delusional. Rules should be temporal things for temporal situations, but in the world, they make rules into things that should last for a lifetime. Often people in the world don't even look beyond the rules to think who made this rule, why, and is this even justified? They don't ask such questions, they just blindly get along with stuff. The same it is with unwritten rules. Unwritten rules are the most dangerous rules there are, because every unwritten rule contains a hidden threat. If you don't notice the hidden threat, you'll be behaving in such a way that people don't want you to behave, and the people will perceive that as an attack on them personally, and now they'll take vengeance on you. One example. Let's say you have a young lady working at an office. She wears high heels, though to the feminist agenda, so there's another unwritten rule. She wears heels. She wears business cash. Her style is business casual, is another convention. She speaks formal language with clients, another convention. But then, here it comes. She is involved with a guy from Ghana, sexually, and she loves the guy from Ghana. But after a while, she tells the guy that they can't continue. So the guy from Ghana is thinking, what's going on? I have my own business. I'm not into criminality. I speak French well. I've been living in France for almost 20 years. What's going on? The woman wouldn't tell him, but the woman just broke all contact. And it's later the guy from Ghana understood why. Because people at the workplace were talking about her that she was sleeping with a guy from Ghana. And in French society, it was taboo for her, a young white French woman, to be involved with a guy from Ghana. It was something people just were shocked by. You just don't do that. You were expected to please the men, the white men from your ethnicity. She was already pleasing her own community by wearing high heels and by dressing in a business casual way at the workplace. Because that's what the community wanted. But the community also wanted her to be with a white male. So she felt the pressure, or better, she felt the threat of violence of the community on her neck. That's why she got along. Why? Because if she would have remained with this guy from Ghana, and the workplace would begin to talk about it, the news would spread in the community, and the reputation of the company where she works would suffer because of it. And if the reputation of the company suffers, the boss will lose clients. If the boss loses clients, the business may go bankrupt, and everyone there is in danger of losing their jobs. So her co-workers, who realized the situation that they may lose their jobs if this woman or the colleague of theirs remains with that guy from Ghana, they put pressure on her through psychic violence for her to leave the guy, and eventually she left the guy. Because the threat was real. If the reputation goes down, the business may go bankrupt, and they all will lose their job, and many have mortgages to pay. So the threat was diverted by keeping this young French lady in check. That is how it goes in this world. There are unwritten rules, which simply means there are hidden threats that you ought to pay attention to. It can be that you're in a community and you have a guy who's avoided by everyone, and nobody likes this guy. One day you encounter this guy nobody wants to be around, and you find out that the guy has positive vibrations. So you realize there is nothing wrong with this guy at all. And then you begin to think, why is it that nobody wants to hire him at a job? Why is it that people are so upset with this guy? And later you figure out what's going on. This guy has no contact with his relatives. Why? Because his father used to be a drunkard that screamed a lot. And even as a child, he would say no to his father, and he would just make plain, even as a child, that he wouldn't take the abuse of his dad. During his teenage years, he had the same attitude towards teachers, towards everyone. If you went too far, he would show you went too far, and he would tell you, I'm a human being just like you. I'm not going to take it just because you have a higher rank than me. He is the type of man that wouldn't take abuse nor violations from anyone, especially not from his own parents. And people in that community grew up with the expectation, no matter how bad your parents treat you, they remain your parents, so your parents have the right to violate you because they were the ones that have taken care of you when you were a child. This is a very debased thinking. So just because a woman gave birth to a baby or a man inserted his semen into a vagina means now that those two people have the right to violate you? But people in that community, they follow this unwritten rule. And this guy decides, hold on a minute, I am important too. I have value too. I'm not allowing my parents to violate me because they don't want to face difficulties in life. What is this? I didn't ask to be born. I'm born. You guys decided to have sex, knowing full well that the baby may come, so I'm here. Deal with your responsibility. Don't blame it on me. So the guy realized, I'm not going to allow my parents to project their filth on me. Not going to happen. He had this attitude, and people in that community, because he violated this unwritten rule, which implied that you have to allow your parents to violate you, people now begin to violate the man because they felt upset and hurt that he didn't get along with their toxic restrictions. So let's say now you decide to hang out with this guy because you realize this guy, there's something wrong with him. What may happen is that people now may become upset with you. You may lose your job. Or if you don't lose your job, you may have people shunning you, not want to be around you. They don't say hi back to you when you say hi. They'll begin to psychologically abuse you. Why? Because you're dealing with someone they don't want to deal with. And this is how society is constructed. there are unwritten expectations, so expectations that people cannot explain, because the moment you write down those expectations, you would have to explain and justify them. And those expectations cannot be justified because there's no science to defend them. If someone is hungry and they can't find a job, you may expect them to steal or to get involved in criminality just to be able to fill their stomach. Even if you don't approve stealing or being involved in criminality, there's a science behind it. They need food, they need water, or else they'll die. So from a scientific point of view, you cannot justify, but you can explain and account for the situation. If you have a woman who lacked a positive father figure in her life, and she's involved with toxic men over and over again, not realizing why she feels attracted to them, you don't approve of the situation? Absolutely not, but you can account for it because there is a scientific explanation that can account for what's going on. But there is no science that can defend nor account for people expecting things from you that they don't want to explain. So they have expectations that they don't want to give an account for because they don't even check whether their own expectations are correct or not. So they don't want to even face their own expectations. They just want you to give in to them so that they are at ease. And the moment you don't do that, they attack you. There's no science that can account for that, and there's nothing under any circumstance that can justify it. And they know it. That's why they don't want to explain their expectations. When you don't do what they want, they frown at you or they shun you as a sign that they're upset, there's something you should do different. Why don't you just say what they want? Because if they say what they want, they would have to explain why they want it, and they can't explain why they want it because they know very well that it doesn't add up. And if you're someone that challenged them long enough, they will freak out and explode in anger against you. That is how it goes in society. You don't give in to the unwritten rules, you are in trouble. You are in danger. Now ask yourself, why is it that we believers, because I'm talking to believers in my messages, why is it that believers put up with this? Look, you're in the world, so you have to, in some way, deal practically with the unwritten rules in any society that you reside in. To plainly ignore unwritten rules is not wise, but to embrace them in the hope to be accepted and relief from violence is not the way for believers. Because here's the thing, even if you get along with all the unwritten rules of society, which is impossible, even if it was possible to do that, that still would not guarantee that people won't turn on you. Because sometimes people turn on you just because they need someone to dump their trash upon because they don't want to face life. It's the fact that they don't want to face life that they have unwritten rules to begin with. Believers, believe me when I'm telling you this. You're far better off being avoided by people that don't want to face life than that you have to put up with their task restrictions day and night, because that will be at the expense of your own health. And that is what society is all about. You need to forfeit yourself just so that the group is validated. Now, in Christ, you deny yourself by relying on Him to provide for you and to guide you. But you're still there. You still matter. But you realize that you matter because Christ is Lord. So you rely on Christ by denying walking in your own understanding. So you deny yourself by entrusting His understanding above your own limited perspective. In the world, you're not even allowed to have your own perspective. You're supposed to forfeit yourself. So society is everything and you are nothing. If you even think that you're something, you'll face violence to put you back in check. So God does not want you to forfeit yourself, but that's the exact thing Satan expects you to do. That is what the world expects you to do. That's what society demands of you, for you to forfeit yourself. Believers, it's time to forfeit society and forfeit all their toxic restrictions. You're in society, but you're not of it. Be at peace.